Welcome to Under the Microscope. This series is brought to you by the Real Scientists Nano team. Our goal is to provide a platform where scientists can communicate their work and interact with the public. With that in mind, every week we introduce you to a scientist working in the field of materials and nanoscience, who would be curating the RealSci_Nano Twitter account.
Hi everyone, today we have with us Laia, Delgado, Callico, who is a PhD student at the King's College London in the UK. Hi Laia, how are you?
Fine, thank you, and you?
I'm good. Looking forward to taking a deeper dive into your research and you as a scientist. So let's start with your scientific journey so far, so your career journey. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so my scientific journey started in Barcelona. When I was in high school, I had a great chemistry teacher, so I decided to study chemistry at the university. Then for the last year of my degree, I won an Erasmus grant to come to London to Imperial College. There I did a research stay for about 9 months, and I stayed in London. I did a master's in molecular biophysics at King's College London, and that's where I am now, doing a PhD in physics.
Aha, okay. So from chemistry to physics, that's quite a... Why did you change?
Yeah, I don't know. It's not so different because after all, like my research, it's in a little bit in the middle of everything, so I can focus it a little bit more on the chemistry, on the chemical side. But I'm surrounded by physicists. My supervisor is a physicist, and everyone else in my group are physicists.
Okay, all right. Okay, so do you identify as a physicist or a chemist?
Both. Well, of both worlds.
So you're a material scientist. Some might call it a material scientist.
Exactly.
That's who I am. I'm a material scientist by training. So just putting it out there, you can also call yourself a material scientist. We are the best of both worlds. All right, super. So, you did talk a little bit about your research in the short podcast. But where does your current research, your PhD work, your current research fit in this big picture of materials or nanoscience? Where does it fit?
Yes, so exactly. It's a mixture of material science, physics, and chemistry. I study metallic nanoparticles, and my research is computational. So I model these metallic nanoparticles, and I calculate physical and chemical properties, such as vibrational, optic, magnetic properties. And I focus on studying the fundamentals and understanding why nanoparticles are so special, so other people can use them for real-life groundbreaking applications.
Aha, okay. I'm still fascinated by the computational aspect of your research because I really thought it's like you go in the lab and do because I'm an experimental scientist. So for me, this is extremely fascinating. Wow, awesome. So it sounds like I'm definitely fascinated by your research, and it sounds to me that you are involved in a lot of interesting research projects in general, like experiments research projects or however you phrase it. If you have to pick one research project that you're most proud of, I know it's difficult. It's difficult for me as well because all the research projects are close to your heart. But if you have to pick one that you're most proud of or the most fun or quirky one, could you do that for us and explain it to us in simple words in the section we call In Other Words?
Yes, so I choose the research behind my first author paper.
Okay.
A universal signature in the melting of metallic nanoparticles.
That was the title?
Yes.
Oh my God. Oh, you're so amazing. Okay, go on. I'm in. Go on.
We know that nanoparticles have a melting point lower than the bulk melting temperature. That is, for example, that 100 atoms of gold melt at a lower temperature than 1 kilogram of gold. But calculating melting temperatures at the nanoscale is complicated because this solid to liquid change is not always easy to see. Sometimes it can be confused with structural rearrangements, that is, when the atoms move and change positions inside the nanoparticle. Or the melting transition can be such a smooth change that goes unnoticed. So we developed a new method to identify at what temperature does the melting transition exactly occur. by looking at the positions of the atoms in the nanoparticle and how they move when the temperature increases. We can map the distances between all the atoms of the nanoparticle, and by analyzing these distances, we were able to identify a change that occurs precisely when the nanoparticle melts, what we call the signature of melting. And we use this method to identify the melting temperatures of different metals, such as gold, silver, copper, platinum, palladium, a lot. And because we were able to identify this signature for so many different metals, different sizes, different shapes, we consider it a universal signature.
Wow. That is, I can totally understand why you picked this as the one of the projects that you're proud of. So you say this is a universal signature, signature in the melting of metallic nanoparticles.
Yeah.
Can you use the same or similar predictions or equations for other metallic nanoparticles as well? Like you already did it for gold, silver, palladium, platinum, Can you also do it for other elements, or why do you call it, when you say it's universal, what exactly do you mean?
Yes, so the ones that we have studied are the ones that are in the middle of the periodic table. And we can only say that it's true for these metals that we have studied, but because all these metals are very similar at the nanoscale, they all have the same more stable shape, we can assume that for these transitional metals and noble metals, it is true, it is universal. For other elements, I cannot say, we haven't tested it, but we consider it universal for metallic nanoparticles.
For metallic nanoparticles, okay, wow. That is really cool. And that was your first author paper, right?
Yes.
That's even more exciting then. That's awesome. Which brings me to the next question, which is, of course, you love the research and aspect of science. Of course, that's why you're a scientist, and I'm assuming that. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong here. But other than the research aspect, what else do you love about being a scientist?
Yes, so I like learning. I like learning new things, and my research now falls a little bit out of my scope as a chemist. So I've had to learn a lot of new things in order to keep up, and I love it. And I also like all the new networking opportunities within research, like meeting other people in conferences or giving talks, explaining what I do, and doing things like this podcast. I also like teaching. Teaching is very rewarding. I'm also new to the academic Twitter community, and I am enjoying it a lot so far, and it's very useful.
Okay, that's quite a lot of things you like. That's really cool. You're gonna love research. You're gonna love science. Being a scientist, you're gonna love it. I mean, you already are loving it. So that's really cool. I'm glad you also like these other aspects of being a scientist. That's really cool. So if the next question that I have for you is probably a bit, you can choose to answer it however you want, okay? So if you were to go back in time, what advice would you give yourself when you were at the beginning of your scientific career? Either that, or what advice would you want to give to researchers who are starting out today? Like they're starting their scientific journey. So you can choose to answer whichever way you like.
Yes, so I would say to anyone, that find your passion, identify what is that you really enjoy, and what you are good at. Being good at something doesn't necessarily mean that it's something that you enjoy. So find what you really enjoy, even if it's not what you are best at, but what you enjoy doing, and don't be afraid to change paths, even if you have little or no experience in this alternative path. If it is what you want to do and what will make you happy, go for it.
Okay. That's what I'm gonna second is what you said, that just because you're good at it, just because you enjoy it doesn't mean you're good at it. Something like that. That's what you said, right?
That not because you're good at something doesn't mean that you have to love it and like do that only because you're good at it. So
yeah, just because you're good at something doesn't mean that's what you want to do. Okay, that's wow, this is a really cool advice. That's really cool. Wow, Laia, this is amazing. It's so cool. Awesome. Awesome. So I hope you're good at science and you also love it. And your research experience so far has been wonderful and will continue to be wonderful in the future as well. However, if you had 3 wishes to improve your research experience, what would you ask for? And I'm not promising anything here, okay? Sorry.
So the first one would be higher salaries, because on the UK the PhD salary is below the national minimum wage. So
What?
you can imagine, yes, yeah, and especially living in London, which is one of the most expensive cities to live in. Yeah, that's my wish. That's my number one wish. And a second wish would be to have more funding for conferences. I have funding, but the more the better.
Of course.
Yeah, because conferences are a great opportunity to present your research and meet other scientists, and they are a must for academics. So I would like to not having to choose to which conference I go to each year. And
that would be great.
The last one, I would change the fact that for every application, it requires reference letters at the first stage of the application. So when applying for a master's, a PhD, a postdoc, a job, or a scholarship for anything, they ask like for 3 reference letters, and it's frustrating. Like especially nowadays, where sometimes there are more than 1,000 applications for the same position, and that makes like 3,000 reference letters that no one is going to read. So it makes no sense to me. And after all, I was lucky that when I was applying for PhDs and masters, I didn't have to apply to many before I got accepted. Otherwise, it would have been like very time consuming for my reference givers.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh boy. Okay. What? The salary is less. What?
Yes.
Less than the minimum wage. What?
Yes.
No, that's not true. No, tell me this is not true.
It's because we are in this. We are not students and we are not workers, so we are something in between. And yeah.
What? Is this only for London, or is it like a UK thing in general?
In the whole United Kingdom, yes. And even we are luckier in London. We have an additional London living allowance extra.
Okay. Okay. So they do try to.
Yeah.
Okay. So they do try to compensate for.
Yeah.
Okay, this is just, I really hope that wish comes true tomorrow. I really, really wish that. And with the second wish, with the funding for the conferences, yes, totally. Yes, you need that. You need to present your research and network with, so you have to attend conferences. Completely agree on that. And also with the reference letters, recommendation letters, sorry. Yeah, you're right. It's ridiculous. It shouldn't be the prerequisite, because it's also not nice for people who are writing the recommendation letter. It's just, then the heart is not in it after you write like 10 recommendation letters in a week. So yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I hope all your wishes come true. All 3 definitely, these 3 definitely come true as soon as possible. It has been wonderful speaking with you, Laia. But before I let you go, one last question, and we have to ask this question because we are living in very special times.
Yes.
So I'm sure you have your learnings from the amazingness that was the year 2020. Could you share some of your learnings from 2020, please?
Yes, so it has not been an easy year, and I feel very lucky and privileged that my research hasn't been affected. And during the last year, I have learned a lot about myself. I have had a lot of self-reflection, which has helped me with my PhD, like knowing what I want and what I want to do in the future, and what I need to get there so I can focus on these things. That's like my most important learnings of the last year.
Oh, wow. So self-reflection, wow. So you connected with the inner Laia.
Yes.
Really?
I had a lot of time on my own, so.
Yeah, what else is there to do? The restaurants are closed, bars are closed, you can't travel to conferences. So yeah, that makes sense. But no, I'm making light of it. But I think it's really important to have that. And it's very important to realize that this is something, looking on the bright side of 2020, because now this connection you have with yourself, and you know yourself better, and all the buzzwords that I can use around them, it will help you in future as well. So thank you very much for sharing your learnings with us, and thank you very much for speaking with me. This has been wonderful. Looking forward to having you on Real Scientist Nano.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening. To know more about us, please visit our website, realscientistsnano.org, and follow us on Twitter at realsci_nano.